Period? Did I say period? Videos? Did I say video? Videos? No, I didn't say videos. Also, did I activate already? No, okay, I didn't. Let me see. I know I have a encoding overloader. What's going on? Why is it being overloaded? If I am not doing anything so far. Uh, anyway, I wanna let me see this. And okay, I see it there, and I also see it here. Okay. Uh, Consider turning down video settings. Wow. Thank you so much. Uh, anyway. Uh, what do I want to? Let me. Oh my god. 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 Ah. Okay, there it is. Uh, I closed the thing that shouldn't have opened. Uh, meetup close? Did I say that? Are you sure I said that? Anyway, let me. What do I wanna? Okay, I wanted to. Let me close the captions. I think. I think sadly it's like incredibly necessary because it lacks like it lacks hard with them uh, turned on. So yeah. Also, why did it move? Why did it go down? I didn't touch it in any way. Why did it move? Okay. Uh, so I think it should be properly positioned. Supposedly, it should be properly positioned. Let me. Am I forgetting anything? I think I'm not. I hope I'm not. What do we have? Let me see. We have. Okay, yeah. We should have everything supposedly in place. So anyway, good morning. Today we are starting a new series. I said it last time that I wanted to watch something and I forgot. So this time I will try to remember that I wanted to watch something and I will try to not forget about it so that I can we can properly try to finish it. I don't think so. It's a 41 episode long series, so it might as well be like how long? If it is 41 episodes, probably also 41 streams. I don't think so. I pretty much don't think so. I don't think it will happen that by some randomly, oh no, by some random lucky event, we will have the opportunity to be here in terms of doing every single one of those, and even less that in any way it's cool to be done that multiple episodes of this whole stuff get completed without having to, yeah, without having like once again an incredibly lucky event. I don't think so, but that's it basically. The the objective of today is pretty much like that series that started like 2 years at this point. The watching the psychology course, the introduction to psychology. This time around, it is introduction to sociology. Wow, so incredible. I wanted to watch something along those lines. Um, I think the proper explanation really is going to university is very interesting because you realize in many times that you have the opportunity to learn. And even when you have that opportunity, doesn't mean that you will properly learn anything. And in the case of even when you have approved the whole lesson that is being given to you, you still probably haven't learned. probably. Um, I feel, or I felt pretty much like that the day that I got my good grade in sociology, and also it's even worse than what I imagined in the sense that it was overly short. It shouldn't have been so short. Um, I think it's more along the lines of the average. We had like only how many, 8 or so classes compared to this, that it's, even if assuming that the problem was the duration, um, even if these classes are only like 1 hour long at most. Let me check that. Let me let me confirm. Let me see. But I'm pretty sure. Yeah, no. At the best, the longest video is like 1 hour and 3 minutes. Oh my god, so long compared um, compared once again to my normal classes, which are like 1 hour and a half. Oh my god, so much time. Such a big difference, certainly. Um, Even if that is the problem, there is like an incredibly huge difference between only 8 classes and 41. Uh, and I certainly, simply as I said, starting, I hope it has anything interesting. Uh, it's pretty much like the other course, quote unquote. Um, I never watched it. I have zero idea how it works, in terms of what are the topics, what's the implicit material that should be observed and all of that. No idea. Eh, Completely no idea. But yeah, that's that's pretty much it, I guess. And also, now that I say chorus, I saw something incredibly weird. Um, I like YouTube as a platform in which you can learn stuff, which has the possibility to be used as an educational platform. I do not like the creation of this new courses thing. It seemed to have gamified unnecessarily. What's the point behind watching stuff? It exists. I don't even know what's the real point. I know that I am not the best person in terms of, oh wow, yeah. I stay on top of the game. I watch every single update that YouTube has in mind. No, absolutely no idea why they implemented that, but simply by the way that I saw it, or how they are trying to make it work so far, I don't like it. It would have been better to simply avoid mentioning that it existed almost to a certain extent. Yet the aspect of educational, if you're going to simply convert it into what they did right now, is, oh yeah, watch this whole course and earn a badge. Wow, so deep, so useful. Certainly a badge, a badge. It got, wow. But anyway, yeah, that's my complaint for today. Thank you. Do I have anything else to say? No, I didn't have anything to open with really. So yeah, let me move on. Let me transition into here. Also, supposedly chat should appear. What other thing I should be mentioning? Uh, yeah, I need to mute the clock. I need to open the audio source, the desktop audio. Uh, it should need to be decreased in level, I think. So yeah, where should we go? Should we? Are we? Do we truly have the also, yeah, this thing? Tiny mentioned it. So much time has passed since the last occasion that tiny explication here. Uh, I'm sorry, I have a little bit of ADHD. I don't like to watch stuff at like 1.0. It's going to be at the very least 1.25. I I think it's pretty much hard to follow somebody, and also I didn't watch the course, but I did try to watch like 5 minutes or so to see if it's understandable at the very least. And there is a huge issue in terms of I know I have an accent, okay, but this guy has an Indian accent. So it's I cannot put it to that much of a high speed. Also, it will be at the very least for me. I'm pretty sure impossible to understand whatever he's saying. Um, I hope I don't even need to decrease it to normal speed. That would be so funny. But anyway, do I really not have anything else to say? Yeah, I activated. Yeah, let me check. Yeah, I activated the audio source. Yeah, I did. Okay. Let me play this stuff. We have like 3 hours, so we shall be capable of going through this one. Also, is there a pick here? Um, anyway, shut up. Also, yeah. It's interesting thing. I think it. I remember seeing something about it. What is it? Do you wanna show yourself again? Here, Indian Institute of Technology. It somehow I didn't know that. I chose it at random. It's an Indian university or an Indian institute. I guess they still use the word university there. An Indian institute which has the classes on English for some reason. I have no explanation for that. And it isn't that much of a problem for like I think 90% of the course or so, but at the very end, there are like 3 different videos that are about sociology inside of um, the Indian society. So I didn't intend to pick this in terms of, oh wow, yeah, we're going to learn about the Indian society even more. It was a complete coincidence. And yeah, before saying anything else, before my 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 so to speak the arrangement makes me ignore the question. Yeah, there were other options, but I already saw them. There was another. I think it was like a Russian guy who was teaching in a in one of the main English universities, something like that. It's like the first result that you get when you watch um, so to speak, the yeah, when you said sociology, that's the first guy, and I ignore that. I have to ignore it because I already saw it myself. I liked it, but at the very same time, we cannot. We cannot. We cannot watch it. I don't like to watch stuff for a second time or third time. At the very least, not so recently. Also, gonna overthrow the Bolivian government tomorrow. Uh, any tips? Uh, I think we're talking about a hypothetical, but even if it is a hypothetical, I think it will be very interesting to try and see how it could be done to overthrow a government without any violence. Like, I could even say that something like main example that everyone uses nowadays, uh, El Salvador. Uh, you know, I hope that pronunciation doesn't kill me. The that country that used to be full of what's the word of like organized crime and all of that, something like that might even be considered an overthrowing of, say, the previous style of government and such. Something like that is a good idea to be analyzed, because how could it be performed, like in a serious question, how could it be performed that somebody might overthrow a government without the usage of violence? I don't think it's that useful to like terrorize your fellow human beings, so to speak, just to get to the position of power. But yeah, welcome, and I hope I answered the question. If not, I guess I don't know. It's still like a hypothetical. It should be understood under those explanations and under that category. But I guess the easiest way always. Yeah, yeah, okay. From that optic, not that I recommend it. The easiest way to overthrow a government has already been demonstrated to be the massive usage of violence, and probably like making sure that the people who might as well oppose you don't, through any violent means necessary. That's the most normal way. Thank you. Now, I said what I had to say about this Indian Institute. I had to say what I had. I did say what I had to say about the question. Yeah. Wait. Quality. Why are we watching 144? It has at the very least 480, and I know we have like low quality here, so it might as well be a good move to not have such a low quality by default. Anyway, introductory sociology. What is sociology? No idea. By and through Professor A.K. Sharma. Once again, I I didn't choose it willingly. In terms of, I wasn't conscious about this being an Indian class, but supposedly, wait, I can justify myself. I can justify myself. There is this. Let me. We can. This one. This guy here. Let me. It's being shown on screen. Yeah. This guy. Pure knowledge, delivery in Indian English accent, no sugarcoating of words. Thank you, sir. It is one thing to know a subject, and another thing to teach that subject smoothly. This professor is excellent in both terms. So, yeah, Your Honor, the comment said that it was so it isn't my fault. Anyway.
Well, friends, today we are going to concentrate on what is sociology.
Shit, it's. We will have to watch it at normal speed. Ah, man, no. Can we get a replay? I literally have to pay complete attention to this. I believe it can still be understood. Please don't tell me that we will have to watch it at normal speed.
Concentrate on what is sociology.
Yeah, I'm not going crazy. This guy say that something like sociology, not sociology. I don't care about the mispronunciation itself. But he didn't say it incorrectly. That's my point. Anyway, I really have nothing to say. I just wanted to point that out. Like, for a second, I was like, oh my god, I'm making it up. I am really that completely deaf. But continue, please.
Basically, I will follow two books.
Yeah, You know what? We have like 3 hours. We should be capable of watching this uh, at normal speed. Uh, sorry for trying to go too fast. Let's begin from zero to see if something changes. Thank you.
Well, friends, today we are going to concentrate on what is sociology.
Yeah, it's somewhat better, but yeah, welcome. Why are we studying sociology? I have no idea. I want to do it. Uh, that's the main reason of everything, right? I have an interest in that, so that's why we are doing it. I don't have any other justification.
Basically, I will follow two books. One, Alex Inkil's, and second, Gisbert.
Also,
The
yeah,
title
something funny. I said I watched this to see if I could understand it, and I said I didn't know why they used why they do it in this format. I remember something along the lines of English is like the first or second most spoken language across India itself, or across Bharat, because there are so many other sub languages that it has been sort of decided that English was going to be, in a way, the most common one. It's more common to see people from the India, from widely different parts of the India, use the English language. I remember that discussion at some point happening, um, but that's not what I'm trying to say. The real point is, I have no idea who these people are. I might be that might be a completely personal issue, but when we studied sociology, okay, I remember when we studied sociology, we went to the classic, to the three classics. Why are there three supposedly? But yeah, we didn't study Alex Inkler or what's the name of this guy?
of Alex Inkil's book is this. What is
Okay, Alex Inkler. No idea. So far, with this description, it seems to be like a one of those guys who makes like what's his name? Brandon Russell. Russell, that philosopher Russell, my friend Russell, the guy who basically does like pretty short resumes about different types of philosopher. Pretty much that, but in this case, Alex Sinclair, the the one who sums up the biggest sociologist, I guess. But that's all that I can say about that guy. And Gisbert, no idea.
sociology? And Gisbert's book title is Sociology.
Are the captions available in English? Subtitles English? Why are they so big? What? Eh, why are they so incredibly big, man? Give me options. Yeah, I don't need them to be 400%. What? Okay, I cannot see at 50. I can. Okay. Okay. Yeah, it's going to be easier this way. Believe me. Uh, Gisbert book's title is Sociology and Nothing Else. Yeah, no idea. But we're going to trust the plan. Also,
Alex Inkel's uh, asked three questions. One, what did the founding fathers do? That those people,
okay, so yeah, I wasn't wrong in that sense. They are basically people who resumes other people. That's like the shortest explanation possible. They aren't like real. Not that they aren't real publishers. They aren't their own theory creators. They are basically just. I I I I think I don't know what's the proper scholar definition, but I see it as more like um, divulgative science in that sense. It isn't really like they are doing anything new, so I would classify it under divulgation. I have no idea, but yeah, they basically just talk out the theories of what are the people important distinction because these founding fathers. So yeah, what I wanted to say before that I also kind of forgot. When we started, when we did study sociology, we talked only about the three classics. I don't know if they are only those three. I would assume there are more. I remember, like, yeah, there is this guy, Malthusser. We didn't read anything from that guy, but I think the Argentinian educational program at the very least only uses three: um, Marx, Weber, and Durkheim. Those are the only three guys who we read, and they are, I guess, interesting, but that's not the real point if they are good or not. The point is they have nothing to do with this Ingeler and Gisbert. Anyway, continuing.
who actually developed the subject of sociology, what did they do? What did they think about uh, developing a new subject? What were their expectations? What kind of problems they took up for investigation? What were their methodology? And
Yeah, it's going to be it's going to be a complex course. We have like 41 episodes ahead, or 40 besides this one. My man, we I believe we can do it. I will try to not say anything more about it, but man, it's going to be hard. Anyway, going back to what I can say, trying to only talk about what I know. So far, the best way to try and go about explaining the founding fathers, as that's the term used here. I don't really know if I should be really explaining the response to this. Certainly, it might as well be like going over overly fast. It's more like watching a course. Really, we shouldn't stop to try and explain everything ahead of time. But still, like a quicker rundown on the information from these people. So far, the founding fathers are, at the very least, I believe Durkheim will be there because he did create, quote unquote, establish what was sociology itself as a sort of social science and such. And in many different respects, I don't know which authors are going to be included besides these two, But besides this one, but the real point is the founding fathers were only capable of establishing, so to speak, the basic theories. Like, I, I guess if Durkheim is visited, it will be an unavoidable read. Yes, anything regarding suicide, probably, but more stuff on what are the basics of society, what is the social phenomenon or phenomena, different ways in which it should be studied, and all of the different ways in which society interacts within itself and such, and certainly the different ways in which societies are established, are capable of being within one another, and the way in which the state arranges itself, something along those lines. That's like the most common stuff for the founding fathers, so to speak, in this same terminology. I hope I can follow. I guess I didn't expect, but probably I will try to read something. Do not be so uninformed about anything that is mentioned here. But yeah, that's everything that I can say regarding the questions of. Yeah, no, that's only the question of what was the object of the study, the problems themselves, like unavoidably. I think it should also be. Please, excuse me, my mouse is broken. It's sort of broken. It moves by itself. I cannot do anything about it. Anyway, the problem. There is a problem. Which problem? Founding fathers. There is no real sociology science yet established. It should be self-explanatory that there is no proper method. There is no proper way to go about trying to understand what should be the way in which a sociologist explains stuff. And therefore, there are like 1,000 different issues in terms of trying to understand how they were capable of establishing solid enough theory while also avoiding the usage of what is a science being created without interfering with the world itself in terms of. I think if there is anything that I do remember quite clearly, it is Durkheim at some point describes in the rules of the sociological method this one thing, this one concept of the sociology shouldn't be utilizing the descriptions that it can create of the society that it analyzes to modify in any way the direction that the society is taking. The proper sociological method is not one that tries to alter but simply tries to explain the different observable instances of the events themselves that happen in society, nothing else. It's pretty much trying to properly see how you can work with the stuff that you have, not utilizing the stuff that you can work with in any way to alter the courses of history, so to speak. Not that it will happen in any measurable manner, but pretty much we can certainly. I think like personal take. I think since sociology is so quote unquote new, it's expected that it gets in some way or another moved or modified by the political discourse and such. So it's unavoidable that the main concern will be to try and understand if it is necessary, useful, and an interest or not to try and modify how the rest of the society itself will work or not, since unavoidably it's something that is highly related to the society, even if quote unquote it should only be objective, even if that's an idea. It doesn't mean that it happens. But yeah, that's like at the very least, only on that level. Founding fathers trying to establish a proper science requires also to refine methods, to create tools and such. Anyway, moving on. Also,
To answer that question, we also have to identify
who?
who are the
Yeah, please,
founding
please
fathers.
tell me.
Another approach that he follows.
Wait. That's who are the founding fathers for another episode.
Is what he calls empirical approach. Means what do those people,
What?
what do sociologists, those who are called sociologists,
What?
do? Like I am a sociologist, I have the position of professor of sociology. There are sociologists placed in university departments, in professional institutions, medical colleges, agricultural colleges, engineering colleges, management colleges. There are sociologists placed in different ministries of government of India. There are sociologists in international organizations.
I mean, okay, I kinda get the point, but at the same time, I think, yeah, we certainly didn't discuss that. I guess at the very least, that's something that this has as a difference from everything else. I don't think it's that commonly discussed. What's the point in the present era of the people that you are seeing? Certainly, I don't expect a complete explanation of that. It happens. It's like a beautiful reality that people don't truly, not people, that the point being presented, when it is simply being presented, or when it is simply being explained as what will be thought, is developed in a more enticing way than what they truly explain in the academical life. There are many things that in these first classes are mentioned but never again are observed. I don't think it will be like an in-depth. I hope it is. I hope it will be a beautiful thing to get a more present idea, yeah, a more modern view of what the sociologists themselves and such are. But commonly it doesn't happen. It's just a statement of, yeah, maybe. What is your goal within this world? No, it commonly isn't discussed. But continuing, I guess. Thank you, thank you very much. Hey, okay.
In NGOs, research NGOs, action NGOs, voluntary development organizations, what do they do? What kind of problems they take up? How they approach their problems? What methodologies do they follow? What are the subjects of study? This can
What
be
are the
another
what?
way
Yeah.
of knowing.
I mean, I can make only so many pauses without making it more annoying than anything else. And we're not even 5 minutes in. Yeah, I guess I should try to shut up a little bit more. Also, wow, my bots, my beloved, thank you. Yeah, but yeah, I think it's very much interesting to see so far this in terms of, aren't you mixing up stuff when you're trying to talk about what's the role of of sociology itself in the present without having fully defined what's the previous, yeah, once again, founding fathers and such, and what's in the modern era, the roots that you have in terms of what are all of the already established and accepted theories, and which things are being used. I mean, it was even mentioned here. There is this sort of way of, yeah, sort of pathway of, yeah, we have a handful of ways, methodologies that you might utilize, different subjects that you can pick to study. But at the very least, in the initial waves of sociology, not only did the methods vary a lot, differ an incredibly huge amount, but also they are necessary. It is, I think, so necessary to mention that at the very least, in the present, in many ways, the way in which a sociologist establishes what they want to study is very much in a completely subjective level. You can pick up almost whatever you want, and that's like one of the main reasons as to why it's necessary to observe the roots. As it said on the beginning, once again, the proper evolution of the science allowed for this conclusion to be reached and such. So it's a problem to jump directly into the second question from the first one. I don't know. I'm not a teacher. Certainly, I shouldn't be speaking about it like this. I think so, but I would have probably left this one for later.
What is sociology? One, the difference between this question and this question is that this question is about the dreams, visions, methodologies of
What? I beg you. What did he say? I'm not joking. What?
one, the difference between this question and this question is
He said Costana. He it's going to be so hard. We have the police. For the love of God, pay attention to the captions. Good tip, read the captions.
that this question is about the dreams, visions, methodologies of those who develop the subject of sociology. And this question is about those contemporary sociologists.
Yeah.
That those who are working as sociologists somewhere, what are they doing? So from knowing what are these people doing who are called sociologists, we can know what is sociology about. And the third way of knowing what is sociology is, what does the region suggest? Logic. That if you broadly divide the subject of human behavior, we all know that sociology is about human behavior. Then
Okay, there we go. Kind of a good point. Try to do my best to not interrupt again for so long or so much. One second. I already said my first thing about, yeah, trying to understand based on the founding fathers what do the present, the contemporary sociologists do. By the way, I wouldn't have gone for that. And what does the reason suggest? The what?
divide the region suggest.
What does the reason suggest? Yeah, I wasn't making it up. What? It shouldn't be that complicated. Why is this being like harder to follow? What what does the reason suggest about sociology? I mean, I I try to understand that it's about and getting a grasp about what's sociology in a broad sense, but at the very same time, I realized this like 1 or 2 minutes ago. These questions can be like pretty much summed up in like 1 or 2 minutes. Maybe these are only questions not for the whole course, but like first class. Maybe, maybe if I completely shut up, we will understand. So, 2 minutes of watching this.
Logic. That if you broadly divide the subject of human behavior, we all know that sociology is about human behavior. Then we also know that there are many other disciplines like psychology, philosophy, anthropology, economics, political science, ethics. They also deal with human behavior. So what does the reason suggest? Means if all these disciplines are about human behavior, then what is the difference between sociology and all these disciplines? Logic, reason. What does reason suggest? These are three ways of knowing what is the subject matter of sociology.
Okay.
Now regarding this,
Okay. Yeah, yeah. Um, I say it. I was thinking like at some point finally it was more about only introductory questions. It's like pretty much impossible to go about this through the whole course. I think so. I would say it like this: probably 41 lessons, 41 classes that they had. It could have been performed. I don't think so. The last question like changes the balance between what's being presented. If if the last one was something more along the lines of I guess, yeah, I will need like a good second to think about it, but something like how is sociology useful, or something along those lines of how could sociology be considered necessary, something along those views might as well be, in this case, interesting, but I don't think these particular ways of explaining it are that useful. Not once again, the final question of what does the reason suggest? That isn't something that you can explain throughout a whole course. So yeah. Anyway, um, now we have reached an agreement. Now we can continue. Please move on.
question, what did the founding fathers do? Who are the founding fathers? There is not one person, there are a large number of persons who have contributed to development of any discipline, including sociology. If I ask you, you are all students of engineering, if I ask you who is the founding father of engineering, you will not be able to answer and pinpoint that yes, person P is responsible for development of engineering. There are hundreds of people, thousands of people from different disciplines, diverse walks of life who have contributed to development of engineering disciplines. Then this question, what do engineers do? Obviously, is a different kind of question than
Are you fucking wow? Are you joking with me? Can't you? Bruh. Blah, 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 blah. Yeah, no, Mr. Teacher, this isn't your class. I have to disagree with your review. I think it's pretty much bad. I think no, yeah. I There is this definition of what is a classic when we try to talk about classic authors. There is something amongst different disciplines that can constitute an author as a classic, and that is the capacity of their theories of remaining important throughout time. The different people who have remained a classic since the conception of sociology might as well be considered founding fathers because their postulates are still important even nowadays. The different things that they contributed to the science itself were useful enough. I think it's very much a disservice to those who gained the possibility of saying that they made something of, yeah, somewhat of a new way to analyze a new subject, so something new and interesting like that, to completely disregard them because there are too many. No, there aren't that many. I accept we only studied like 3 people in my classes. There are probably like at the very least 20 founding fathers, but there are not hundreds upon hundreds or thousands of founding fathers. It's like probably I cannot answer that question myself, but if you and ask the average American, they know that the founding fathers are a handful of people. They aren't 1,000 or hundreds and hundreds of people. There is a handful of them who are meaningful for the creation of anything. Not that you can completely disregard every single one, because, oh yeah, maybe they are in some way or another different, or maybe because they have a lot of us. No, I thank you, but I won't consider your point. I think so. So I don't like this first answer.
What did the founding fathers of engineering do? Now, in the founding fathers of sociology, mainly, though you can make a long list of 10, 15, 20, 50, 100 persons who have developed the discipline of sociology, but the most important names which you will find
Okay,
in all introductory books of
let's go.
sociology are August.
That's so back. We are so fucking back, Goofy. Finally, names. Thank you so much. Yeah, you can make a list of very good idea. That's like, I think so. You can pretty much see it as the internal discourse being externalized. That's my real expression. I would have probably reacted the same, but simply internally. Also, good morning, Crespian. I hope you're good. We are studying. Doing the funniest thing imaginable, studying. Wow. So I hope you're good. Good morning, certainly. But yeah, I finally we have some names. There are something that I can say is I remember having heard about Augustus Comte like probably 20, 30 different times. We never read that guy. I don't know why we didn't read that guy. We did read Durkheim and Weber. Those two we did. And the only one that I think I heard about is Spencer. I think Durkheim talks about Spencer and probably a a proper investigation of the science would sort of reveal or demonstrate that somebody like not somebody like I remember the particular idea that they had is there is a properly developed line that can be followed about who are, so to speak, the founding fathers in terms of interconnected theories. Because I do remember when I was finishing which one? His postulate, I think it is that one. The the first publication that had that Durkheim ever made. That is I know the title on Spanish, not on English. Let me from the division of labor. I think it is something along those lines. I do remember that in that one, Durkheim talks already about Comte, and I think Herbert. That's what I wanted to say first. I never read Herbert. I never heard about Herbert outside of when reading Durkheim. But the other idea is also probably you can follow a traceable enough line about whose theories influenced who. Because, once again, Durkheim talks about Comte and talks about Spencer. I think so. So, yeah. Anyway, continue. Hey, thank you very much.
Comte, Emile Durkheim, Herbert Spencer, Max Weber. Alex Inkells also says,
Okay. I don't think it has anything to do with this, but certainly I still want to say it. I remember when I was studying, in my case, or not particularly when I was studying, there is always something that tries to be discussed, but it is that results kind of difficult to be properly talked about here, because only the people who conform the so to speak the students themselves discuss this. It isn't a real discussion that happens at the highest level of stuff, so to speak. It doesn't exist in the higher echelons of well, it should matter. But regarding the founding fathers, the ones that we study here in Argentina, it always seemed to be kind of weird to read Marx. Marx shouldn't be so much considered a sociologist. At the very best, the things that they utilize that are somewhat in concordance with what sociology tries to be about, that are about that's about the division of labor is Max Weber. It's about methods of production and the different ways in which, it's something along the lines of methods of production, capital, and power. What's sources of power? The people who works, basically. That's the only thing that has value, so to speak, from Marx. But everything else that he theorizes about isn't so much of a sociological construct. It's a rather okay, incredibly subjective view. I saw it more as a humanistic explanation of the stuff. It was more like a sort of protest, I will say, against the capitalistic types of society and such. It's an analysis and demonstration of the different problems of the I, I is it? It cannot be capitalistic. It isn't a word, right? But I can only come up with capitalistic. What's? I have a phone next to me. Why don't I utilize that phone to search? Capitalist. Is it properly capitalist? What? Anyway, um, the capitalist societies is what Marx tries to describe the most. And it's like a methodological analysis on what are the different ways in which it operates and the problems that arise from it in a sort of political description of the things. Nothing else. Do be careful with web searches. No, yeah, don't worry. I'm not going to use my browser here. I'm not going to. I'm this one, the one that we are seeing here. I'm not going to use it. I only have it for this one, for this watching the video. Um, I know already about the risks of trying to search for stuff while also capturing a screen. It's not a gamble that I am going to take. That's why I said I have my phone, and I'm not going to use this PC for that. But yeah, I get what you mean. Possible biases? Oh no, yeah, I mean, I simply tried to search for the explanation of, for the translation of Spanish, sociedad capitalista, English, or into English, capitalist society, not like the in-depth definition and such, but yeah, I, I kind of understand what you mean, but yeah, that's what I wanted to say basically. That Marx is, I don't think so, a proper subject of a study for somebody who tries to understand sociology. His theory is like incredibly brief in terms of development of what is in itself, um, anything regarding these things of sociology itself. It's pretty much not. But yeah, no, yeah. I'm trying to search. I don't even remember something. Some of his stuff being mentioned. I think the best, the most approximate type of uh, social capitalism is a term. No, yeah. I mean, yes, it's a term. But what are you trying to say? What? Uh, what? What do you mean? What? What is Carespian talking about? Okay, the issue is Marx has like a lot of text, a lot of books, a lot of theory. Most of it isn't really sociological by definition itself. It's only in different ways economic. It's I don't possess a wide enough language to properly explain it, but it's more along the lines of the way in which Marx tries to describe the different stuff that pertains to society is not in a sociological way. It will be mentioned later on, but one of the main objectives of sociology shouldn't be to alter the stuff that you're seeing. And you can very much pick up on how he describes it so utterly bad and such, different negative consequences that arise from the capitalist societies and similar things as a biased way of describing the phenomena that he decided to analyze. And even if just because the method itself is flawed, you shouldn't be discarding the theory. Later, more in-depth analysis that he performs completely differ at all from sociology. That's why he's more of an economist, if you want it, than a sociologist. Not that's the point that I am trying to get. He has some terms. I mean, he has more. One of his terms is something along the lines of alienations and such. That's probably that's what I wanted to say. That's probably some of the best things for sociology in terms of relating it to anything sociological, but at the same time, it is still biased. It is still behind the construct that he utilizes to describe the alienations themselves are still subjected to a negative view on how the capitalist society can function in any way, because the issue of the alienations that the forces of labor can experience are all determined by the problematic way in which the bourgeoisie and the laborers themselves, the workers, associate. And that can only happen in the, so to speak, most basic capitalist societies. It's it it yeah it's more it's an even more complicated matter than what we can talk about here without going too far away of the real subject. But it's something along the lines of the proper development of a capitalist society should also be capable of fixing the issues that arise from the distinction between those who possess the mediums by which the product is created and the workers themselves who are utilized in the different lines of production. If in a proper society that tries to be capitalist, it can be fixed the way in which these two sides arrange themselves, it can be so sort of converted into a more idealistic type of capitalist society, because it doesn't have to deal with the issue of the alienations themselves existing. It's a concept that, while it is valid on at a first glance, it only exists within very particular ways of arranging themselves, of the societies arranging themselves. And even if many different sociological explanations fall within this category, because that's the reality, many subjects that are chosen by the sociologist only consist of things that are part of their particular time. The different definitions that Mark utilizes are not so much of a useful definition for the sociological existence itself. It's only a useful definition for the concept itself that he is trying to explain. And it's an overly specific definition. That's a proper way to say it. It's an over specification of what tries to be an observation of anything. It's like, yeah, I think an appropriate comparison will be something along the lines of, we shouldn't be calling this a proper way of studying, because this relies heavily on both sides, so to speak, understanding stuff. There are many terms that are being utilized by both sides, and also the proper way in which this is being performed is not by utilizing the proper pacing. If you're expecting this to be a type of studying, you're going to be, yeah, you're going to meet with the reality that this is indeed not what you were expecting, because in a more in-depth analysis, the way in which things are being done doesn't allow for the proper subject to be reached. That's very much what happens with Marx. The way in which he talks about societies seems to be sociological, but when analyzed more in depth, he doesn't perform it that well. He utilizes many different terms that are related once again to economical, certainly sociological and such theories, but he utilizes them to construct his own theory that is more political than anything else. That's why, in the end, he ends up becoming so much of an influential socialist, after all. But yeah, anyway, continuing. We have been stuck here for like, how long? 5 minutes?
That he deliberately chose these names. And one of the considerations was that these names cover the diverse European settings. Auguste Comte, he is a French, Emile Durkheim, a French, Herbert Spencer, an Englishman, and Max Weber, a German. So Alex Hinkels has selected people who develop the discipline of sociology from different geographical or political or social settings: French, English, and German. Now, some people also include the name of Karl Marx, German.
There we have. Finally. Oh yeah, he's not going to be included. Are you sure about that?
But not known.
He certainly is going to be
a German or Jew, but someone who gave a
what the fuck did he say?
In thinking on human subjects.
What? Wait, brother, what did you say?
And
Brother, no. Go back. What did you say? What did I hear?
To include the name of Karl Marx, a German, a Jew, but not known because he was a German or Jew.
Why do you need to make the distinction about him being Jew? What? Also, he was Jew? What? Yeah. What? Anyway. What? What?
Someone
Anyway.
who gave a revolutionary idea in thinking on human subjects. And in the name of this idea, in several countries of the world, subsequently developed socialist movement and the idea of scientific socialism. In our country also there are so many parties, political parties, which are devoted to philosophy of Karl Marx. They are called Communist Party. There is a long history of how initially in India, Communist Party of India was established and how it was split into two and then several parties. That's a different story.
Yeah.
But Karl Marx gave the concept of socialism and developed a scientific theory of socialism. Karl Marx developed a holistic, independent, revolutionary, and a fresh theory of human behavior, which subsequently led to socialist movements and trade union developments in different countries of the world.
I mean, okay, Mister. Yes and no. I remember we sort of had this discussion along the whole year. Marx is, on one hand, a creator of some theory, but I'm pretty sure what he's talking about, even more so about human behavior relates to. I like the proper English term. Uh, Give me yet again. Give me a second to search for it. The definition is something along the way in which not only Marx but also Hegel discuss history and such. It's like Hegel utilizes a lot more the term dialectics and such. Marx is centered more out the historical, or Marx interprets Hegel's theory more from a historical point of view than anything else. Let me search for it. Yeah, yeah. Marx, I think on English is no. I searched for the other term. For what I already discussed, the dialectics and such. What's the definition of Hegel is materialistic dialectics and such. It's about how we cannot discuss Hegel. Uh, we can. I wish we could discuss Hegel, but we cannot discuss Hegel. He's a completely different thinker with a completely different theory. But basically, he talks about something completely different to how Marx sees historical materialism. Basically, is that? Yeah, that's his definition. Um, the way in which the different societies arrange themselves and the different individuals which are parts of the societies are capable of arranging themselves is based in the ways in which the individual is oriented towards the creation of this construct that is the capital and similar ways of obtaining uh, in any kind of manner, so to speak, a proper way of substance. It's the theory of Marx is oriented towards, once again, the description of an economical view that tries to change, in the end, the way in which things are presented from the economical aspect into a more yeah, I mean, yeah, it isn't that wrong. Anybody who reads him can realize that he tries to shift the narrative from the commonly bad way of arranging societies in which the proposed idea is this, so to speak, this proposed analysis of only the capital as the important thing and the different subjects of history working towards the creation, substance, and further development of said capital compared to anything that is in any way related to a more solid. I think it is that's why communism is called that way. Communal way of set of working, something along those lines. It's his theory as to the world, not the world, the societies could benefit more if the humans were capable of siding with each other instead of competing with one another as the capitalists do propose and go about the stuff. But that once again, that theory isn't really sociological; it's more of a political theory. That's why I mean, it should be instantly picked up even by the professor himself that what he's describing is more of a yeah, it's more of a political discussion when you bring up Marx into sociology, because his ideas were revolutionary in terms of also allowing the different creation of, on English they are called unions also, I think, the different unions that do exist that allow the different parties of workers to gain a little bit more of. Yeah. I remember the whole speech. It's something along the lines of what Marx proposes is the moment in which the worker, the working class, becomes capable of understanding their their position within the system and create for themselves, or not create, gain class consciousness, they are capable of also creating these types of unions because they are finally capable of understanding that what they are working for is not for their own benefit but rather for the enrichment of the other class who constantly subdues them. And that is why I think the moment in which anybody tries to analyze that, it is self-evident that it isn't an analysis in any way that refers to a more general term, to a more simple definition. It is already implied that there should be a kind of action from the workers, that you are kind of telling them what they should try to do. Because, once again, the final goal is something along the lines of communism, socialism, and such. It isn't just describing, it's more of defining in order to obtain a certain result. But anyway,
What did these founding fathers say? What are their greatest contributions? They have said many things. They have
yeah,
written many books.
yeah,
They have produced many ideas.
yeah,
They have studied different subjects. It will be difficult for me to do justice in 1 hour time or less than 1 hour time
yeah,
to exactly say what did they do. But some of the main ideas of these founding fathers, which are commonly present in introductory books of sociology, I will discuss them. Actually, Auguste Comte was a philosopher. He was
yeah,
not a sociologist. Obviously, if he is developing the subject of sociology, then he was not a sociologist to begin with. He was a philosopher. But he differed from other philosophers in the sense that while other philosophers took to study of ideas and did some kind of armchair philosophy. I think you understand what I mean. Armchair philosophy, speculation, thinking, building logic of arguments, testing ideas and theories on the basis of arguments only, and some propositions.
okay, yeah. He will probably say it himself, but the different way in which you can see it is also described in a very similar manner by more modern, yeah, by those who are more modern from August Comte, because what Comte proposes is that the way in which sociology should be utilized is not by simply, or not sociology, the way in which these different social sciences should be utilized is in order to assist the society itself. The final goal of these sciences is not to exist within their own realm, and that is one of the most valid and useful critiques that he performed about his moment, yeah, his present philosophical contemporaries, because at that time it was starting to arise this whole theory of people like, yeah, if I'm not wrong, people like Descartes and such were starting to become famous because they were starting to enclose themselves with their own theories. They weren't defining stuff for the sake of aiding anyone else. They were only defining stuff in order to increase their theoretical boundaries and nothing else. There wasn't any usefulness behind what they were saying. The masses, the population of the world wasn't benefiting from what they were doing. So Comte proposed something along the lines of, if philosophers want to keep being important and don't want to fade away into nothingness, philosophy should be a more integrated science with the rest of the world, just like it happened in the past, where some of the most famous philosophers were not just philosophers. The Greek and Roman classics were not just classics because they were from those times and because they did philosophy. They were also classics because they held a lot of power and they were a lot more meaningful for their cities and such with their developments than what his present was doing. But that's like, yeah, that's mostly a philosophical definition and such of of social sciences, I guess, in this case. But continuing.
Axioms, uh, working out implications of those axioms. And Auguste Comte said that there is a need to develop a new kind of subject in which the subject matter is human behavior or society. We will study society. We will study human behavior. We will study family, religion, economy, and so on. But in place of speculating about human behavior, or in place of logicalizing behavior on the basis of some philosophy or religion or some textbooks of religion, we will make concrete empirical experimental studies. We will base our conclusions on observations. We will use scientific method. And those people who actually applied scientific method to study of human behavior were called positivists. This is the term that Auguste Comte gave to a new kind of discipline which will study human behavior. But study behavior.
I am. The kudos of knowledge is that there are too many things to say about this, and we have already spent like how much? An hour and a half? Yeah, almost an hour and a half on the first less than 12 minutes. I think, you know what? Before I burn out, before I completely fall asleep here, you know what? Give me. Shut up, mister. Give me a second. We're going to take a break. We're going to take like a 5 minute break. Or something like that. Thank you very much. Let me let me let me let me find this one and this one. Transition to the BRB. And scene, no, tools, scripts. It is scripts. Reset. How much time does it have? 10. 300. Yeah, I think only 3 minutes is fine. 3 minutes of a break. Thank you very much. Probably, I guess at this pace, what I want to do like half the class. I had 3 hours free. I thought I was going to be capable of watching this in 3 hours. I guess not. Psych. Anyway, Yeah, thank you very much. Uh, taking starting with the break. Also, we have no noise. Don't expect any noise from that. Why is the streamer late? Can we kill that guy, please? Thank you. Welcome back. I kinda, yeah, I was starting to get a little bit burned out. My God, I wasn't expecting that. I was kind of expecting it. And also, thank you, Cresman. I was kind of expecting it because I knew that I was. It was going to be incredibly long. I ain't expecting to that degree. That's the reality. I ain't expecting to for so long. Only not even 12 minutes. This is incredibly crazy. Oh, how did we not reach even 12 minutes? Incredible. I guess probably the only explanation I can give is probably because I think I know stuff. I am taking a lot more breaks here compared to later classes where I will have a lot less stuff to say in any way. So it will be harder for me to interrupt. But yeah, continuing, I guess. Do I don't really have anything to say. Yeah. No, yeah. The only thing, I guess, yeah. After like a 5 minute break, introduction again of what's this, what's class out sociology, introduction to sociology. This is the first one. Explaining so far who are the founding fathers, what was the contribution that Augustus Comte had. So far, he only talked about the scientific method, which is introduced both by the scientific method and the positivists' way of seeing things. Is an idea created certainly by Augustus Comte. It's one of the main ways in which things are observed in terms of sociology, because the objective is certainly to, as I have already said before, describe objectively what reality is without affecting it in any other way. It tries to be the construct that tries to difference sociology from any other discipline in terms of making it solid enough so that it doesn't need to rely on anything else when some when another person observes what's the goal of what's this particular science doing. Uh, but yeah, that's so far everything that I can say. Let me mute the clock once again, and I unmute the desktop audio, so that's fine. Continuing.
Scientific method. And
Yeah, quick break. Quick note. This guy, this guy has not only an Indian accent, but also very. I guess we can be honest in that sense. I can be honest in that sense. A very broken English pronunciation in many ways. So there are captions, but good luck focusing on what he's saying.
those people who actually applied scientific method to study of human behavior were called positivists. This is the term that Auguste Comte
Also, it wasn't. That's the problem. It wasn't only a definition given. Positivism wasn't only created for sociologists. The whole point of Comte was to try and make different sciences more solid. That's why he's also considered an epistemologist. His main concern was to give sciences any kind of credibility, to make them solid enough and certainly to give also what are called different social sciences more compatible, or so to speak, more proficient at dealing with the issues that exist in the world. Com- yeah, compared to what are the different solid or natural sciences, that's the word. It, the positivism was certainly the movement that tried to give all of those this more objective way of working. It wasn't only applied to sociology, it was a general term given to most things that worked in this definition, so to speak. But yeah, I don't know. I don't think I can say that much more. It's just like a tiny correction. But everything else is kind of fine, I guess.
Gave to a new kind of discipline which will study human behavior, but study behavior on the basis of hard facts in a scientific manner. Now, normally, when somebody utters the word science, what kind of idea does it convey? It conveys that science is an objective study. Scientific studies should not be influenced by ideas, philosophies, religion, background, socio-economic background, demographic background, racial, religious background of the researcher. And the method that the researcher should follow should be such that anybody following that method will arrive at the same results.
Yeah.
So findings of science are value neutral. Findings of science are dispassionate. There is no personal attachment or there is no interest in arriving at certain scientific conclusions. So when Archimedes or Newton or Einstein, or these are big names, but all the scientists whom we know as scientists, when they contributed their theories to different areas of science, we never doubt that their ideas were not influenced by their religious, socio-economic, demographic, or
I mean, okay, I think this is the solid way to see it. The problem with also trying to talk out these kind of people is that you don't realize you're only naming those who are popular, and the problem is that those who are popular became such because they were capable of defending their theories for enough time. I one of the most well-known things is somebody, yeah, I don't know how much well-known, but something that did happen that can be traced back to events is somebody like Einstein had to defend his theory like 200 times or so. There were many disputes and contrarian theories that tried to disprove what he was saying. It doesn't mean that science to begin with is completely objective just because the person is detached from the result. And also, I mean, even more in the current era, you can observe that sadly there are many ways in which the most common sciences to the average person are not that objective. I mean, it, it shouldn't be something that isn't well known. To say that something like the different studies that happen on stuff like how the world organizes itself around, for example, their views on oil was influenced because the different bigger powerhouses allowed for the bias studies on different terms different pharmaceutical companies did the same in many different aspects just to validate their different products, basically. I mean, if you go a little bit further in time, you can find the stuff even like tobacco companies were incredibly proficient at selling because they also used the backing of doctors of their era and people from those times and studies the very same scientific method that we are talking about that should be objective was utilized to describe quote unquote objectively positive facts about smoking, when in reality now we finally understand that it wasn't all that good. It isn't. Different sciences aren't completely objective. Even if the goal is just to describe some facts. I I remember trying to hear trying to watch another guy explaining this I think it's called the course itself is called critical thinking. I don't remember exactly what term he uses for that, but it's something along the lines of the way in which the information is presented, even if it's said to be objective, is still manipulative because the way in which the argument is created makes it look like something might be more beneficial than other thing. It's a sort of judgment based on the validity of an expression simply because one is given the validation of what we have considered as the best ground of comparison, that is the realm of objectivity and general, once again, validity in terms of because this is objective, this can be more true than this other thing. It different sciences look objective, but so far they truly are not that in that way. Once again, it was already I already tried to explain it before. Somebody like Marx doesn't explain stuff objectively. There is no way you can talk about Marx and say that he was objective. There is no way for that to happen. Somebody like Weber doesn't explain the stuff from an objective point of view. Certainly Weber is a different case compared to, at the very least, Comte and Durkheim, who can be, so to speak, more correlated, but the way in which theory is created isn't in any manner completely objective. The goal is to have something more objective so that it can be valid, or it can have a better chance at being observed as valid, but it doesn't happen still. Anyway, continuing.
Or country background. We do not say that because Einstein belonged to this country, this era, this stage of development of society in his time, or this was his age, he was male or female, or he believed in this or that sect of Christianity. We never say, or he was a Jew, or he was of some other religious. We never say these things. We do not believe that scientific ideas of scientists are based on their religious or socio-economic or demographic or country or racial prejudices. These ideas have been arrived at by making concrete and objective studies of certain facts. So there are measurement, there are value neutral methodologies, there are mathematical studies.
I think the problem is here that it still lacks the proper difference into what has been the argument since forever of the natural sciences possess all of those qualities. The social sciences don't. The social sciences construct their subject of study, construct their methods, and construct the way in which their interpretations should be created. everything is a construction for a social science, and everything is, in a certain way, a completely new idea based on the investigator for social science, even if it has some sort of objective connotation. It can only be described as objective based on the subjective degree which the person that is observing, say, the method considers that to be more or less objective. That's the only thing that makes a social science objective. On the other hand, a natural science possesses all of these qualities because they are more abstract ideas, and they have a lot less to deal with how you can describe a formula, how you can create a formula and such. Their different rules are already established so that you don't have to worry about being or not objective as long as you can follow the basic rules of the science itself. But I mean, yeah, in a more in-depth definition, probably that's also why social sciences are so much more new compared to natural ones. In their validation itself of a more concrete thing, so to speak. There had always been stuff like social sciences. I mean, maybe you could even argue that something like Machiavelli's book or Marx is already considered that, but yeah, somebody like Machiavelli's might as well be considered a sociologist to a certain degree, based also dogs doing bow bow. It's where I want to take this moment of barking to take a sip of water. Meanwhile, at some point they will shut up. Okay, continuing. Uh, what I was trying to say was somebody like Machiavelli might as well be considered by the modern or the present rules that we utilize to define the sociological methods and the sociological way of understanding things. As therefore, as a sociologist, while he certainly wasn't even alive while such a definition was being created, I mean, even more somebody like what's somebody like Plato or Socrates might as well be also called uh, sociologists because they had so many definitions about what is what are these different things that to some degree or another have to deal with society, but it doesn't mean that they were. The science itself is so new that it's harder to give it a proper validity, but you can find traces of it existing in many other, not just cultures, in many other instances of time itself, so to speak. Anyway, continuing.
Statistical, scientific ways of examining, exploring a problem, and there are inferences drawn on scientific basis. This is
Oh
what
my god.
positivism is. I always like to use a Hindi term for positivism.
What?
Because that makes the subject of sociology more clear to me. And since most of the students here understand Hindi, they can understand if I write pratyakshvad, that unlike other philosophies.
What? No! Ah! What? I beg you, please explain.
Comte's philosophy was based on pratyakshvad. We will talk about.
I don't even know what you are saying, mister. Can you. it was being so fine. I mean, in reality, it was simply being me talking too much, but it was going so well. Why did he have to use Hindi? What is that word? Man, please, I beg you, explain the word.
Only those things which are pratyaksh, which are before us, which are facts, which are known on the basis of scientific experiments. We will not talk about anything else. I remember that later on, one great philosopher of science uh, suggested that scientists should be concerned only with scientific hypotheses. What is scientific hypothesis? Hypothesis is an assumption that we want to test in our research. Now, if hypothesis is our assumption, mostly regarding relationship between two or more phenomena, which we want to study on the basis of data, then only those hypotheses can be taken to be scientific, which can be rejected on the basis of hard facts or empirical data. Hypotheses which cannot be rejected, or assumptions which cannot, or ideas or theories which cannot be rejected on the basis of empirical data, are not scientific. So scientists should be concerned only with those issues, those questions which can be scientifically examined. For example, what is not a scientific hypothesis? A hypothesis that God is male. We have not seen God. God may be male, God may be female, or God may be a transgender, we don't know.
Wow.
So this hypothesis, somebody said that let us scientifically examine whether God is male or God is female or God is transgender. There is no way. We can't scientifically examine whether God is male or female or transgender. And scientists are not
That's
interested
what
in
I
such hypotheses.
thank you.
So science has a
I
limited domain. That also we must understand, that you cannot scientifically study everything. Scientists can study only those hypotheses because scientists are interested in rejecting false hypotheses, and false hypotheses are those which are rejected on the basis of hard facts or empirical.
it's I still don't have the definition of the word, mister. I love you, but give me the definition of the word. Anyway, I guess I think it's something along the lines of what he tried to use there. I don't know how to write Sanskrit. I think it is what they use for Hindi. But I think the word is something along the lines of concerning what is only on the realm of the observable things and the realm of the. He used truth to try and define it. It's something along the lines of on the realm of the already existing matter, so to speak. That's why also the distinction between a hypothesis and what is an idea and all of that doesn't need to be utilized in this context is outside of the proper observation of this thing, because only the certainly existing things that are already proven to be real, so to speak. That's also why scientific facts are more valid, are used in these cases, because the validity gained by having already been established as true is what makes it worth it. It's it's he already said it's another definition basically for or his way of understanding positivism in that sense, that you can only advance in in regards to knowledge, you can only advance to further knowledge based on already established knowledge. Also, we are having an incredibly hard time with these dogs. I would I won't say that I want to kill them, but I will say certainly that I wouldn't be so patient in other instances of life. Let's say that the way. Uh, anyway, continuing. Am I forgetting anything? No. Yes. I was forgetting something. Uh, Gatachu. What? Thank you for the follow. And that was Gatacho. How do you say that name? Anyway, continuing.
Data. Whether God is male or female or transgender, or God is young or old. In several pictures, our gods are shown as very young persons, and in several pictures, they are shown as very old person with beard, mustache. We don't know, and we can't scientifically examine that. So sociologists, as scientists, should not be concerned about such issues. Sociologists will be concerned only about those issues, very much in line with Karl Popper, who said that scientists must be interested in scientific hypotheses only, they cannot study everything. So according to August Comte, sociologists use scientific method to study.
What? Why are we talking about epistemologists? What? Did I space out? What happened? Why are we talking about epistemologists out of nowhere? What? Mister, repeat yourself right now.
Society or
No. Shut up. I want to hear that again. What? Here.
Scientists must be interested in scientific hypotheses only, they cannot study everything. So according to August Comte, sociologists use...
Yeah, that's the problem, man. Don't make it only about sociologists. Neither Comte nor Popper talk only about sociologists. They talk about as the guy self-corrected about the science as a whole and trying to give it a more solid ground for existence. And I get, at the very least, he said that he wasn't going to be capable of talking it with such as solidity by himself. But there is a certain distinction to be made when you're trying to talk about something like the epistemological way in which these different people understand stuff, because the connotations that existed behind how people like Popper and Comte talked about the creation of science was surrounded by the context of the different sciences of the era, where very much like what I mentioned before, the present one being biased toward different results and being altered to produce only certain already expected and desired creations, not to bring into reality anything revolutionary or too advanced further theories that could serve anyone. They were being made because they were serving something, and the point was not to create science for any particular objective. One of the main concerns of somebody like Popper even was that science as a thing shouldn't be oriented towards any particular goal. It should be a creation that can properly arise and that can be in continuous expansion, and from there, from the objective creations, it can be then brought into the subjective realm to give it any proper aim and to allow it to work with any particular kind of objective in mind. It cannot simply be reduced to positivism and pragmatism, I guess. But anyway, continuing.
Scientific method to study society or human behavior. Macro aspects of society or micro aspects of society. This is the biggest contribution of Comte. And actually, he used a term drawn from science. He called such a subject social physics, that he is developing a new subject which may be called social physics.
What?
And as physics is often divided into statics and dynamics, actually it is mathematics which is divided into statics and dynamics, but he said physics. At one time everything was philosophy, then everything was physics. So he said physics can be divided into two parts, statics and dynamics. Likewise, sociology can also be divided into statics and dynamics. Statics will deal with the relationship between different parts of society. This is what you do in statics. In statics, you study forces, equilibrium, how an equilibrium of different types of forces, pushes, pulls, this force, that force, inertia, gravitation, velocity, momentum, all kinds of things. How an equilibrium is obtained because of interaction between a large number of forces. So social statics will be, for example, about how is family maintained in the context of this political system, this level of economic development, this kind of history, this religion, this level of literacy, this kind of economic activities, and so on. So social statics is about relationships between different parts of society. And social dynamics is about when society changes, and you will agree with me that society changes. Indian society today in 2012 does not have.
That's so funny. This class is incredibly old. Anyway, the reality, I think, yeah. So far, it was. There were other many corrections needed. This one, luckily enough, very clear. Certainly, I don't remember though if it was only Comte who talked about social statistics and such. It was the grounds for which later on something more serious like sociology finally was created. But the different statistics that tried to be analyzed are still useful nowadays. I mean, were simply reshaped to have a more serious form, and they were given proper ways of being understood by anyone because there were many presumptions made or created when trying to discuss at the beginning the different forces that altered the states of any social human being, so to speak, and that were influencing forces on the individual. The further theorizations allowed for more serious statistical analysis on the different once again societal events in general. It at this point in time, only talking about Comte, it was a completely rough idea, but yeah, it wasn't wrong at the same time.
Have the same features which Indian society had 5,000 years ago, or 3,000 years ago, or 1,000 years ago. During medieval period, during British period, after independence, society has been changing. So when society changes, how different parts of society change in response to changes in the larger society. That is dynamics. Relationship between part and a changing whole. Society as a whole is changing.
Video?
Auguste Comte also pointed out what are the stages of development of society. For example, he uses that when you read Alex Hinkels or you read Gisbert, you will come across these terms. These are the stages through which society passes: theocratic, metaphysical, scientific or positivist, Uh, different researchers, different sociologists will mention different stages of development because
Well, yeah, I mean that's kind of the fun of it, I guess. The different theories have completely different ways of going about their theories. I mean, in somebody like whoever doesn't talk about different stages at the very least, he can only, not that he can only, he focuses mostly on the descriptions about society within the ideas of power, domination, and such. It doesn't arise as a description of, yeah, these stages. But yeah, I mean, that's like not only in sociology, that happens in many sciences, like different ways in which the field diversifies itself, creates different ways to describe the same phenomenon. And that's also at the very same time what gives it, I think so, a better validity, because you have the possibility of realizing that indeed, with enough different scattered ideas, you can create a more solid vision about it. But yeah, I don't know. I think, okay, I'm going to be honest. I think, give me a second. Here, I think so far it has been fine. So far it has been pretty fine. The only issue certainly is, and I hope it doesn't happen more, the the random usage of Hindi. I don't speak Hindi. Nobody here, I guess, speaks Hindi to translate even what that means. But we have to believe that it won't happen that much, or anymore at all, if we're lucky enough. But that's it for today. I had 3 hours, and we certainly didn't even do like half of it. But that's it. Uh, I cannot offer much more from me. I have some stuff to do. So thank you, and see you next time. Please take care.